What is going on YouTube, and welcome to the second video of the series, well, kind of series that I'm doing, which is just how to improve at Rocket League, which does what it says on the tin, where I just make some videos covering some topics on Rocket League where I just think some people just need to hear it, and I just want to make this channel and series specifically a one-stop shop for people to find some tips to help them rank up in Rocket League and hopefully get to where they want to be. Now, this video is going to be none other than settings. Now, what do settings have to do with anything? Well, I mean, if you've ever played with camera shake on, that's an example. Your settings can impact how you play quite a lot. Now, some of them are a lot more important than others, but we're just going to go through them all. So, unlimited boost and free play, long story short. If you want to just freestyle and just do whatever you want, you can see here my boost doesn't drain at all. You can literally do what you want. Whereas here, this is kind of more for learning like the position of boost on the field, like learning like just boost management and stuff. Trying to remember where boost pads are. That's a pretty good use of turning that off. Now, this I'm not going to go into too much detailed text chat. I mean, if you want to be toxic to everyone on the field, have it on allow all. If you want to be toxic to just your teammate, have it on team only. Like, you know, just pick what you want out of that. Voice chat's broken anyway, so I might as well disable it. Split screen, I don't care. Cross-platform, just finds games faster, to be honest. Not that it matters in the lower ranks, you'll find games pretty quickly. These four here, unless you know what you're doing, don't change them. You shouldn't really have to change them unless your PC actually can't handle running the game. Show competitive divisions and extra ranks, like, again, up to you. Doesn't really change anything at all. Neither does this really. It's just having it on main stats only just stops it showing up when you get a clear ball or a turtle touch or something. Tourney schedule reason, obviously, just have this like close to you. You don't want to schedule your tournaments like in Australia when you're in the UK. Yeah, so now these are slightly more important. Now these are the camera settings I've been running for about a week or so. I find personally with -5 angle I do quite well. Now I'm just gonna go quite through all of them. So first things first, if you want a preset, you don't know where to start with your camera settings. If you're on PC, you're in luck. You've got a list here of literally just ends and ends of players that you could just literally click on their name and it will give you their camera settings. Now, that's a good starting block if you don't know where to start. Obviously, if I scroll down here and I click squishy, what a lot of players don't understand is just because you're using Squishy's camera settings, you are not squishy. Like, it's good camera settings, but you still need to develop the mechanics and everything. Your camera settings have a minimal impact on that. So please don't choose a pro player's camera settings and expect to go from golds to grand champ. It just doesn't happen like that. Camera shake, just don't have this on, just please. Field of view, I have it on 110. Anything between 107 and 110 will do fine. You don't really want to have it below 107 because then you can't see anything. But yeah, just have it. You can just see here, it's basically just zooms in. And then distance is just how far away from your car the camera is. Anything between about 250 and say 280 is probably good. Unless you have high stiffness, in which case I'd say anything up to about 320 probably, but only if you use one stiffness. If you don't use one stiffness, having your camera that far back is kind of unnecessary. Height is just how high the camera starts. I have it on 100. I wouldn't have it anywhere lower than 90 and above 110, so I find it nice and in the middle there. Angle, this is how shallow or deep the angle is of the camera. Doesn't change the height at all, but you want your height and angle to complement each other. So some good ones to have would be 90 minus 3, minus 4, and minus 5. 100 minus 3, minus 4, and minus 5. Or 110 minus 3 and minus 4. I wouldn't really choose any height and angle that aren't those, because they just don't really complement each other that well. Obviously, personal preference. If you have something wacky that works really well for you, keep using it. But if you want some reliable camera settings, I'd use those. Stiffness. Now, what this does is it does a couple of things. So, first thing you'll notice with low stiffness, when I turn, my car goes really far to the side. Now, that makes it quite hard to be accurate. So, I have it at about... I mean, also the other thing it does, I'll show you. Just when you speed up, you'll see your car just goes further away from the camera. Now, that's like, it just makes you feel like you're going faster. Nothing wrong with that. Now, I have mine on 0.5. You can see it's slightly more rigid. You go slightly off to the side, but nowhere near as far. And if you use 1 stiffness, then you literally stay right in the middle of your camera at all times when you're in car cam. And that's good if you want to just get good accurate touches. 1 stiffness isn't bad. A lot of people don't like it because it feels quite heavy. But if you like it, by all means use it. It's definitely viable. Swivel speed is just how fast your camera does this. Again, just play around with it. Doesn't really matter. Like, just play around with it. Find something that's comfortable and stick with it. Transition speed is just how fast your camera goes, let's say like this, from car cam to pool cam. Now, what happens if you have this really low, like on 1, it's slightly slower. Whereas if you... I wouldn't really recommend having this any higher than 1.5. Anything between 1 and 1.5 will do you fine. Anything above it just feels like you're about to break your neck like that. I feel like in a game, this would just be really disorientating, so... I don't like it. I know a couple of people that use 2, but I'm not a fan. Invert swivel, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't have the slightest clue what this does, so yeah. Controls. Now, once again, same with camera settings. Just because you use squishy's controls, you're not squishy. So, jump A, boost B, you know, fairly standard. Power slide and air roll on LB, just because I didn't really like it on X. Air roll left on X, just because I don't really use it, but I still want to have it bound to something in case I do need it. But I predominantly use air roll right when I'm in the air, which is quite comfortable on RB. And yeah, that's kind of all the controls I've really got. I don't think I even have use item bound, or do I? Yeah, I do. So I can actually play Rumble. Not that that really matters. But more helpful control settings. Now, sensitivity, there's a misconception here. I saw it in, I think it was Justin's chat last night, where someone was like, oh, your sensitivity looks like 2.0. So if we shove it on 2.0, my car only turns so fast, right? Now, if I turn it all the way up to 10, once again, my car only turns so fast. It's not anything to do with how sharply your car turns. It's to do with your joystick and how much you need to move. Like, look how little I'm touching my joystick and how harshly my car's turning. Now, that's not really good if you want to be able to control the ball. The best sensitivity to use, if you honestly don't know, is 1 or something close to it. Now, the advantage you get with 1 sensitivity is you have the biggest range of inputs possible. Because here, look, my car's turning just as fast as it was. But the simplest way of putting it, if we just look at my controller overlay and focus on it, my maximum input is here. So I've got any input from there to the middle. Whereas if I use 2 sensitivity, my maximum input is about there, and anything past it to there is just the same. I'll throw a visual on screen to make that a bit clearer. Now, it's kind of the same for all the sensitivities, like steering and aerial. Dodge dead zone, if you're freestyling, you want to use like 0.3 or something. It just makes stalling easier, and stalling's just cool apparently. So yeah. If you're playing somewhat competitively or don't really care about stalling, then you want to use something around 0.05, 0.1, something in that region. If you have stick drift, obviously turn your dead zone up until you no longer have the drift, because otherwise it's just like you don't want to have it too high. You just want to have it as low as possible that feels comfortable. Dodge dead zone is a bit different. So it's most noticed when someone tries to fast aerial. Now, when people try and fast aerial that don't really know what they're doing, it's kind of hard for them to double jump while boosting and tilting back like that. So what happens is people that have a dead zone too low will sometimes do that and backflip. Now, all that happens there is just their dead zone's too low. Obviously, it's not exactly why I just backflipped. I kind of forced myself to backflip. But the concept is there. So if your dead zone's too low and you want to flip, sometimes you might do that if your dead zone's too big. Because it's to do with how far you need to move your stick until you flip. So if you have it really low, then you barely have to move your stick at all to flip, but then it will mean you can't really double jump as easily. But by the same token, it'll be easy to flip, and if you have a dead zone too high, you can double jump really easy, but it will be quite difficult to flip. So I have mine around 0.6. You kind of want it somewhere between 0.6 and 0.8. Obviously, personal preference, you can go lower, you can go higher, but I'd recommend between 0.6 and 0.8. Vibration is just horrible. I'd turned it off. Ball camera mode, if you have this on hold, it just means you have to hold an extra button the whole time when you want to be in ball cam. Now it's just not great, because obviously if you're trying to go for an aerial or something, you've already got enough buttons to press at once. You don't really need to add another one. So I'd recommend keeping that on toggle. Push to talk, I haven't really touched that, and keyboard settings, I'm just not the person to ask, to be honest. Interface scale, these, just play around with these two especially. This should probably stay on 100 unless some of the interface of the game is just off the screen. Then you can shrink it down. That's what this setting is for, so you can shrink it down a little bit and fit the game onto your screen. Interface scale just makes these little bits here just bigger and smaller. I have it on 95 just because, I don't know, I just prefer it. Not really any reason to it. Nameplate scale is the nameplate of your teammate and opponents. If you have this really big, then the nameplates will be quite big and they're easier to see. If you have this really low, then they're a lot smaller. But I find being able to see them is quite good. It just makes it easier to keep track of where everyone is, and also just timing your challenges because you can see their nameplate through the ball. So might as well do that. Nameplate mode, I'd keep it on default if I were you. If you have it on simplified, then they will always show up as little diamonds, and then there's just no point because you can barely see it. And nearby only makes them into little diamonds if they're on the other half of the pitch. So again, you don't really want that. Connection quality indicators, it just means you can see when you are lagging and it's not the server. I know it's hard to take sometimes, but sometimes it is your internet and not actually Psyonix's fault. Although in saying that, Psyonix do have terrible servers half the time, so you know, it's good to know whether it's your internet or whether it's the server. Colorblind mode and force team default colors, I mean, it's if you're colorblind that's a bit obvious, but with default team colors, if you get distracted by being in a club match and they have red cars but they're on the blue team, then turn this on. It just disables that for you, but it shouldn't really make a difference because their nameplate will be the same color anyway. So you know, I don't really see the point in it, but if it helps you, it helps you. Notifications during gameplay, I haven't really touched it. Some people have it off. It's just when someone invites you to a game and the little pop-up comes up on the bottom of your screen, it just disables that coming up in game. That's all it does. Team color boost meter, Some people like it, some people don't. I do. I quite like it. But there's also another thing with the boost meter that some people don't know. While we're on the topic, is that it's really bright here when I have 100 boost. Then if we drain it down to about 80, it's still bright. And if we go below 80, it gets darker. And then if we drain it all the way down, then it's the same color. So it kind of, the color of your boost meter kind of represents how much boost you have. You can see just by looking at the color if you've got a lot of boost or not. Metric is up to you. Ball cam indicator is just the pop-up. See here, I don't have a pop-up on the bottom of my screen when I'm in ball cam. Whereas if I turn it back on, then you can see it down there. Then ball arrow, you'll see when I was in car cam that I had a little grey arrow. If I turn it off, it's no longer there. So that's all you really need to know about those settings. Performance graphs, the only other one I'd turn on is performance summary. These ones, there's no point, they take up way too much space, so, you know. And the only thing on performance summary that even really matters to most people is the FPS anyway, so, you know. Convert platform friends, if you want to add all your Fortnite friends and all of that, then, you know, just tick that, I guess, or whatever. I don't really care. Display mode, don't run windowed, just full screen or borderless, whichever one suits you. If you turn vertical sync on, you'll notice here, or not, the game just has like really big input lag sometimes. Oh no, that's why. The game just feels kind of laggy. I don't really know how to describe it. You kind of have to turn it on yourself and know. But yeah, anti-aliasing, it just, yeah, just have it off, there's no point. Render quality, high quality. Now if you turn this down, you notice that it's just, the game gets a lot blurrier, so there's no real point in turning this off. It doesn't impact performance that much, so I'd have that on high quality. Custom is just because we've messed with ones over here. Now max FPS on 250. The reason it's on 250, your game calculates your inputs based off your FPS. If you're running at 250, your game will calculate your inputs 250 times per second. So you might as well have this on 250, and even if your monitor is running it at 30, it will still calculate your inputs at 250 times per second. Some people cap this and think, oh, if I make this like 60, oh, at least it'll be constant. No, just have this on 250, trust me. It doesn't really make too much difference though, because obviously 250 parts of a second, like, you know, it's quite a small amount of time, but it just allows for a bit more precision. Texture detail, high performance. If you really want to make your game just run smoothly, then just turn everything off and then just have transparent goalposts on. If you want your game to look good, don't really care about performance or anything, you know, just turn these on, doesn't really matter. Some people have high quality shaders on as well, it just makes the game look a little bit nicer, but again, doesn't really matter. Now, transparent goalposts, I mean, it does what it says in the tin. Now, it doesn't really show it too well on this map, because they're kind of transparent anyway, but if you go to this part of, say, Farmstead, then this bit here will just be completely like opaque and you won't be able to see through it. So I'd recommend having it on just purely because when the ball's in the corner, you can at least see where it is. Now audio, just have whatever you want, honestly. Mute on unfocused, it just means if you're tabbed out of PC, then you can still hear when you've queued into a game, and it's helpful because at least you don't leave your teammate in a 1v2. Or if you've queued ones, then, you know, you just concede a couple of free goals because you're just not aware that you're in a game. So, you know, I'd just have this unticked because it just helps you realise when you're in a game. Or if you don't tab out, then it doesn't really matter. Now, quick chat, you can have sensible chats like these, or you can just have what save on all of them. But then just remember, you're a gold probably, so what saving is probably not a solution because everyone in gold is kind of bad. Like, realistically, if you're in gold, you've still got thousands and thousands of more hours to have in the game to master it. Now, no one is bad at the game. It just takes a lot of hours to get good. Rocket League is difficult. Now, your settings now have a big impact on how you can play the game, because obviously it determines how well you can control. But then you still have to put in the hundreds and thousands of hours to master the mechanics of the game, to really grasp the control of the ball and your car, to really go up the ranks. But settings definitely do help, trust me. Now that'll be it for this video. If you want to, please leave a like and subscribe if you found the video useful. Please comment if you have any feedback. And let me know if you disagree with some of the things I've said in this video. I'd love to hear it. And also I'll leave a poll in the description just for the topic of the next video, another topic that will just help people improve. I'll leave some options, just press the one you want. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'm out.